Now back to the VSiN studios and The Edge with Matt Humans and Jonathan Von Tobel. Watch the show and check out the latest in sports gaming news and analysis at vsin.com.
Okay, now we've been waiting for this for quite a moment. Really, really excited. Humans and I both are to welcome in our guest. And I know he's tired. He's doing us a great favor. Probably had a crazy weekend. Teddy Atlas, boxing analyst for ESPN, former trainer. Teddy, how are you today, sir?
A little tired. Just flew back. Haven't slept much from Vegas, but doing what everybody was doing out there, doing their job, wall-to-wall TV from Monday to Sunday.
So you were working. You didn't partake in what our city can give you and the nightlife and everything like that?
No, just working. Just getting up early, doing sports center hits for the most part all day long.
So I got to ask you right off the top, Humans and I both agree. Conor gave out a better performance than I think a lot of us expected. What did you think of how Conor did, especially in those first few rounds against Floyd?
On television, I picked, when I had to make my pick, I picked Floyd to win by 9th round KO. So I was off by one round. And I was a little unhappy that the referee was stopping him in the 9th round, that he didn't stop the clock as he was giving instructions and separating them and doing what he was doing. But I felt that going into the fight, one of the misnomers was, and of course they were promoting it, it was an event more than it was a real athletic contest. Only one guy could win the fight. The closest thing you could get, and be careful now with the words I'm going to use, but I'm a guy that talks pretty plainly. I don't think there's any other way to talk, but as close as you can get to a fixed result, because when you got a guy that is so overwhelmingly superior, only one guy can win. And so, there's a reason why there were $1 million bets made. I mean, because people figured, hey, it was better than getting a good stock. You get your return on your money, you pick up your $50,000, your $70,000, you pick it up real fast. And at the end of the day, they were right. I felt, like I said, the misnomer was promoting the fight that McGregor was the cannibal. He was the caveman. He was going to come forward. No, he wasn't. I'm not an MMA guy. I'm a boxing lifer. But I did my work. I looked at his biggest fights. He counterpunched. He stepped back. He set traps. He was cerebral, believe it or not. He was controlled. He was patient. He was like Floyd Mayweather, in other words. So that's why I picked it to go on the over. I picked that it was going to go rounds, which in the end it did. And again, Mayweather is he's a guy that takes the air out of the ball. He doesn't make exciting fights. He's a defensive master. He plays defense. He lets fights go. The funny thing was, because McGregor was like him, did have the temperament more like him than people thought, it came onto the shoulders and responsibility of Mayweather to push the fight. The ironic thing was, who thought going into this fight that Mayweather would have to behave and fight like Rocky Marciano to break his record? And at the end of the day, that's what I said on ESPN right after the fight. That's exactly what I thought.
Actually, Teddy Atlas, ESPN. Teddy, Stephen A. Smith had you fired up on the set. I thought you were going to punch him. Were you close to hitting him?
No, not at all. I love Stephen A. Smith. I love him.
Now, you were talking about how Floyd was turned into Floyd was turned into a burger flipper, essentially, and it was not the typical Floyd Mayweather type of fight. Now, I thought, Teddy, that Floyd basically gave up the first 3 rounds. He was trying to let Conor punch himself out. He was figuring out the fight. I thought it was 3-0 without a doubt after the first 3 rounds. Now, 2 of the 3 judges did not score it that way. How did you score this fight?
I had it 86-84, I believe, my memory's right, at the time of the stoppage. I had the first 4 rounds for McGregor. You could go either way on the 4th, I guess. But I had the first one, and then I had a 10-8 round. I guess it was the 9th round, was a 10-8 round I had for Floyd. But listen, the judges were horrible. You got to talk candid. Otherwise you should keep your mouth shut and say nothing. My sport, the administrators, the sport is beautiful. It's a great sport. Great. Been around 200 years. But the administrators of my sport, well, I'm not going to say it where I insult people's ears by being by using the wrong words, but they're horrible. They stink. And they're corrupt sometimes. They're either corrupt or they're incompetent, one or the other. I don't know. Sometimes I'm not sure what it is, but sometimes I look at it and I say, you know what? Nobody could be that incompetent. Nobody. So a horrible job, again, by the judges having it so far apart, especially that one judge. I think he only gave one round to McGregor. Yep. I think that was terrible. It's not good for the sport. It eats away at the credibility of the sport when you see judging like that. But at the end of the day, only one guy was going to win. That guy had control of it in his hands. It had nothing to do with the judges, and that guy was going to be Mayweather.
All right, Teddy, I'm with you there. I scored it, Conor, 4-0 through 4, and some people thought I was crazy giving the fourth round to McGregor, but I didn't think Mayweather did anything in the fourth round to win it. So I had Conor 4-0 through 4, and then I had it 4-4 through 8. So I'm with you on that one. I've often said that one of my biggest problems with boxing is the judging is often a joke. And we saw that a month ago or so in the Jeff Horn-Manny Pacquiao fight. You were fired up that night. I thought the box, you're right, is it incompetence or is it corruption? How does that Manny Pacquiao-Jeff Horn fight get scored that way? And then the other night you see the lopsided scoring in the Mayweather-McGregor fight. What can you do to fix the way boxing is judged? Is there anything we could do to fix that system?
Yeah, I've been using my podium, my position as a podium, to try to do something for years now. I've been doing boxing for ESPN 21 years. We had Friday night fights for 18 straight years, and I tried to use my platform to bring about change. I went down and I interviewed Senator McCain in Washington to talk about what we could do at the time, years ago. A national commission. That's all you can do. Federal commission, national commission. Every other sport, major sport, NBA, NFL, MLB, they all have national commissions. Boxing doesn't. They have separate commissions in each state around the country, and some of them are just lousy. And there's too much of a closeness. There's no separation of church and state, if you will, between the people making money and the people supposedly administrating the sport. I mean, you can literally go to a commission and you can lobby to get certain judges. If you're the promoter making the money, you want your guy to win, obviously. You can lobby the commission and say, I don't want that judge, I don't want that judge, I don't want that judge. Well, you know what? That's a problem. Because when you can do that, then, of course, the judges understand if the promoter's guy doesn't win, they don't work. So right there's a problem. Is it somebody handing money underneath the table in a smoky, cigar-filled room like the old days? No, but it doesn't have to be. You could go to a dinner the night before, 2 nights before a major promotion in different cities and in different countries because boxing is global. And you could see at that dinner all the officials for the next day, all the referees, all the judges. You see the head of the organization, whether it's the WBC, WBA, WBO, IBF. They're all sitting there. Guess who's hosting the dinner, picking up the bill? Yep, you got it, the promoter. Mm-hmm. Absurd. Are you kidding me? Could you imagine the Steinbrenners hosting a dinner for the officials the night before the World Series? No, you couldn't.
It's Teddy Atlas on the horn, ESPN boxing analyst. And Teddy, Robert Byrd, the referee for the fight, during the first few rounds saw some complaints on social media. Essentially, he was allowing the hammer fist Conor McGregor to go on a little long. What did you think about his officiating? Did you think Conor deserved to be docked a point in those early rounds for those?
Listen, again, I like Byrd. I've known him for years. He's done a lot of fights on ESPN that I've called, and even with some of my fighters that I've trained. But again, you know, if you can't talk candid, don't talk. He didn't have a great night. He didn't have a great night. He's better than that. He lost control a little bit, or at least he was in danger. It never really got out of control, but it was in danger of getting out of control potentially because he didn't really take he didn't take the measurements that he really could have or should have. At least put out a warning, possibly take a point away, but obviously be a little stronger, maybe even a lot stronger, but definitely a little stronger than he was.
Do you think that maybe the powers that be, I was talking about this with Matt off the air the other day, that maybe they were like, look, we don't want this to end in a disqualification. Let it go a little bit. Don't be as tight as you would be in a normal fight.
You know what? For that theory, if you want to put that theory forward, go ahead, fine. But the problem with that, the funny thing with that, is at the end of the night, he stopped the fight a little fast.
Yeah.
You know, and again, yeah, good stoppage. I'm not saying it's, the guy was going to go down, but a tiny bit fast. And the funny thing is, he allows McGregor. He did McGregor a favor. Because now McGregor say, I wasn't down. I take shin bones to the head. I take knees to the head. I take kicks to the head. I would have survived that. No, he wouldn't have. He would have been on the floor, carried out in about 8 more seconds. But he's allowed to make that argument now because the fight was stopped just a notch too soon. But listen, I agree with you. I'm sure there were meetings that said, hey, let's keep this thing going. If it gets a little crazy, let's give them a little leeway, more than we would normally give them some leeway.
Yep, I'm with you there too, Teddy. I thought it was stopped a little bit too early. I would have let it go on just a little bit longer. You said there was only one way this fight was going to end. Here at VSiN, we agreed with you. We had a pre-fight poll. 23 guys were on Mayweather, 0 on McGregor. Why do you believe so many bettors or the public, why do you think they believe Conor McGregor could pull the upset in that fight?
I think they like the odds. That was part of it. I think that the short version, we call it fanatic,
yep.
Right? When you're a fan and you're fanatic, you don't think with your brain, you think with your heart, you think
right.
with your emotions. I think a lot of them MMA people were thinking with their emotions. I think a lot of the great Irish landed, and they were having some nice alcoholic beverages, and I think they were feeling, patriotic. Patriotism doesn't really care about who's the better fighter in the ring or who has the better qualification. It cares about patriotism. It cares about nationalism. And nationalism, I think, paid a part of that. A lot of people came over. They backed their guy from their country. Again, from their sport, MMA. They liked the odds. They were drunken and
right.
intoxicated with, just with the not even with the alcohol so much, but just with the passion and the excitement and the chance to brag for bragging rights.
Right.
They got carried away. Hey, we can say that our sport's better than your sport, but in that forum, no, they were never going to be able to say that. But at the end of the day, the reasoning was still there. The people at the end of the day that did use their judgment, it showed where that judgment should be, because the more money, by far, what was it, 85% of the money went on Floyd. More bets went on Conor, at least leading up to the fight. But the real money, that went to the right place. And again, there were people making $1 million bets. They knew, obviously, what they were doing.
Yep, you're right. It was about 90% of the tickets on McGregor and 80% of the money on Mayweather, essentially, in that fight Saturday night. Mayweather by 10th round TKO. Teddy Atlas called it in 9, so not far off. Teddy, let's talk about the fight in September. Triple G and Canelo. How do you think that one's going to play out?
Yeah, that's a real fight. This fight wasn't a real fight. And again, people were happy, and I'm glad they were. But it was an event. It was taking your wife out to, deciding to go to a play or go to a Spider-Man movie,
right.
For the weekend. I'm going to get entertained. Something might happen. But it really wasn't about the athletic contest. It really wasn't. Because, again, we went over that. Only one guy was going to win. This is about the athletic contest. This is about what goes on inside that chamber of truth, inside that squared circle. Two fighters, good fighters, fighters that have now gotten into the public eye, so it will be sold out. I'm sure there'll be a lot of betting on that too. A lot of interest, the real deal. I'm telling you, 2 years ago, I went on the air and I said that Golden Boy, they would be crazy to put Canelo in with Golovkin then. It was maybe 2.5 years ago. I said they'd be killing the goose that lays the golden eggs, because no matter who Canelo fights, he makes money. So he doesn't need Golovkin. They should wait till he gets old. Guess what? They waited till he got old. He's 35 years old now, Golovkin. He's sliding. I think he's been exposed a little bit. I don't think he's as good as people think he is. And I'm not taking nothing away from him. I'm just giving my opinion. He's a strong guy. He's a silver medalist from the Olympics. He's a guy who had over 300 amateur fights. You know, he's a good puncher. He's fan-friendly. He comes forward. And he usually has a size advantage, which he does here. And like I said, 2 years ago, too big, too strong. Golovkin, too much. But now he has been sliding. He's been exposed a little bit in the Danny Jacobs fight, maybe in the Kell Brooks fight. You could say the same thing. Like I said, he's 35 years old. He's one-dimensional. I think that's been shown. And Canelo's getting better. So at the end of the day, very close fight. You still got to worry about the power in certain spots, especially in the first 5-6 rounds. I think with Golovkin, then he might fade a little bit. But if he can get past that, he being Canelo, I could see him outboxing him. And again, I'm on record. 2 years ago, I said Golovkin. Much, much closer fight now.
Teddy Atlas, ESPN boxing.
It's going to be a great fight, too. And I kind of feel the same way. I used to think Triple G was going to dominate Canelo. And now when I look at it, I think I'm starting to lean towards Canelo a little bit. How about you, JBT?
I'm definitely leaning towards Canelo in this one, especially in our world. The betting price, you get a good price on him now. So before we get you out of here, Teddy, and Teddy Atlas on the phone with us, ESPN boxing analyst, we got to ask you about the Pacquiao-Horn potential rematch. You see some reports that it might be in trouble. This is the question: is it going to happen? And the second part is it going to happen not in Australia?
It's going to happen. It's going to happen in Australia. I believe it's going to happen. Yes. And listen, follow the money. You can put 55,000 people in a stadium. Where do you think they're going to put it? In your backyard? No, I'm sorry. You can't fit that.
I got a big backyard.
Yeah, I know, but 55,000, that's really large.
Teddy Atlas, ESPN boxing analyst. Again, thank you, Teddy, for the time today. Really appreciate it, especially after the long weekend you had.
My pleasure, guys.